We were reborn at the same time. In this life, he knew in advance that he would eventually hold a third-rank official position. He knew in advance that he would be the favored minister of the new emperor. The only regret of his previous life was that he never married his childhood sweetheart, Xiao Qingmai. So he unhesitatingly abandoned me, who was just marrying him, to go search for his little childhood friend who was about to be exiled. As for me, I didn't cry or make a fuss, but chose to let him have his way. When I saw Pei Qin throw the red silk from his hands and turn to walk out, I realized that I had been reborn. The guests who were attending the ceremony expressed their surprise and doubt, waiting for me to bow to your parents with Pei Qin. Pei's father stood up in anger. Rebel son, where are you going? I know where he's going. Pei Qin has a white moonlight in his heart, his little childhood sweetheart who grew up with him, that night when I married him. Liu Susu's father was imprisoned for crimes, and the Liu family was raided, with the remaining family members awaiting exile. The next morning, Liu Susu sneaked out early to seek help from the Pei family, but the Pei father didn't want to get involved in trouble, only giving her some silver before dismissing her. It was actually Pei Qin who was unwilling to let it go, going around to help the Liu family. He didn't even come back to visit my family on the day of his return visit. I remembered that the Pei family and Liu family were old friends, so I didn't say much. Even afraid of his parents scolding him, he still covered for him. But who would have thought, as soon as I returned to the Pei residence from my in-laws' home, Pei Qin brought Liu Susu before me and proposed to take her as his concubine. Pei Qin said, "Yun, I have known Susu since childhood. We are like brother and sister. I truly cannot bear to see her suffer the hardship of exile. So I wish to take her as my concubine. Saving one life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Yun, you have a kind heart, so you surely couldn't bear to see this weak woman suffer and die, right? Don't worry, I only regard Susu as a younger sister. She is only my nominal concubine. There won't be anything between us. The only person I love is you." Yun. Liu Susu stood aside, sobbing quietly. She looked so frail and pitiful, evoking immense sympathy. The Liu family had committed a crime, but it did not implicate daughters who had married outside the family. As long as Liu Susu had married someone, whether as wife or concubine, she could escape the punishment of exile. However, with the emperor's decree of punishment, everyone avoided the Liu family like the plague. No one dared to marry a daughter of the Liu family. Only Pei Qin, who was utterly devoted to Liu Susu, was eager to plunge into the murky waters. Pei Qin said with his mouth that he regarded Liu Susu as a younger sister, but when he looked at Liu Susu, it was clearly the gaze of someone looking at his beloved, just like how I looked at him back then. Before marriage, I had no idea that Pei Qin had a beloved. The Xie family is an aristocratic household with a distinguished lineage. My father is the current chancellor, holding great power and influence, with students and old acquaintances spread throughout the court and the land. The Xie family commands both fear and envy. Upon sensing the emperor's intention to arrange a marriage between me and the crown prince, my father hurriedly instructed my mother to arrange my wedding, forbidding me from marrying into the royal family. Pei Qin is a newly minted third-place winner in the imperial examinations, with an average family background, but he is good-looking. It is not difficult for a graceful gentleman like him to captivate a young girl in love's bloom, making her fall for him at first sight. After the 2 weddings were arranged, Pei Qin would often visit the Xie family with gifts. Sometimes they were wildflowers picked by him while touring outside the city. Sometimes they were the most fashionable red hairpins and cosmetics from the capital. Other times they were new dishes he had tasted while socializing with others, which he would buy and have his attendants deliver to the mansion while still hot for me to taste. Besides physical items and food, Pei Qin would also write me letters, telling me about the amusing events that happened each day in the capital, sharing the gossip he had heard from his colleagues. His pen was brilliant, full of witty remarks and clever phrases. I found this man absolutely fascinating. Before our marriage, Pei Qin even took a solemn oath before his father, vowing that he would never take a concubine for the rest of his life. At the time, I genuinely and sincerely admired Pei Qin. As soon as the idea of taking a concubine was brought up, I became furious. I neither rejected nor accepted Pei Qin's proposal. Instead, I had people summon Pei's father and mother, and also had someone call my father to come. How could the Pei family's parents allow their son to offend the current chancellor over a daughter of a disgraced minister? So the father immediately called for the family punishment and severely beat Pei Qin on the spot. The father also spoke up to threaten that if Pei Qin insisted on taking a concubine, he would have me divorce him. In the end, Liu Susu herself chose to return home with her family, waiting for exile together. Pei Qin was angry with me for several days, so I couldn't help but yield first and lower my head. I provided money and effort to help the Liu family navigate connections up and down, ensuring they wouldn't suffer too much on their exile journey. I also went home to plead with my father, and he promised me that once the storm had passed in a few years, he would arrange for someone to escort Liu Susu back to the capital. Only then did Pei Qin avoid making mistakes, and we finally made up. But to my surprise, not long after, I received the news that Liu Susu couldn't bear the hardship of exile and took her own life on the road. When Pei Qin learned of this, he fell seriously ill. After waking up, he seemed to have come to terms with everything. He said, if anyone should be blamed, it's her father for his corruption, or blame her own bad fortune. Thereafter, Pei Qin never mentioned Liu Susu or the Liu family again. He was especially kind to me. He would wash my hands and serve me soup, pluck my eyebrows and paint my eyes, and never said a word of blame even though I had remained childless for many years. He would also take the blame upon himself when Pei mother scolded me for being unable to continue the Pei family line. I returned his favor, asking my father to intercede for him at court, to manage his household affairs, and to make connections with the wives of various families. Thus, Pei Qin reached the rank of 3rd grade before reaching the age of 30, becoming a favorite of the new emperor. I thought that I would spend my entire life in love with him. Until my father suddenly passed away, my elder brother died unexpectedly, my younger brother was accused of treason without cause, and the Xie family was completely annihilated. Only then did I realize that Pei Qin had never forgotten Liu Susu's death. That was a thorn in his heart, and he blamed all his hatred on my family, the Xie clan. Pei Qin set fire to me and killed me. He said, Xie Yun, your entire Xie family owes Susu, and you should repay the blood debt with blood. I had originally been thinking about how to stop this marriage, but I never expected Pei Qin's actions to be much faster than mine. Looking at his eager expression, I guessed that he had also reincarnated. Pei Qin didn't answer his father's words and continued walking forward with big steps. Pei father's voice was filled with anger. Pei Qin, dare you? Pei mother also spoke anxiously. Qina, can't you just deal with whatever it is after you've finished your wedding ceremony? The guests in the hall were also discussing eagerly, mostly hoping to see a good show. Pei Qin seemed to just wake up from a dream, finally turning back willingly, and said to his father and mother, Father, Mother, I have something urgent that needs to be dealt with immediately. I will explain everything when I return. Then he looked at me again. Ayun, be a good boy, and wait for me. I'll come back to marry you after I finish my business. This was a very young and handsome face. Yet the tone of his speech already carried the mannerism of someone who had reached the pinnacle of power many years later. Without thinking, I gave an order. In my previous life, when I saw this face, my heart was filled with joy. But now, seeing it again, all I feel is boundless hatred. As if I want to carve him up into pieces with 1,000 knives. I threw the red silk in my hand and took down the wedding fan. staring directly at Pei Qin as I asked him, "Pei Qin, do you want to publicly break our engagement?" I used questioning to conceal my hatred, displaying just the right amount of anger on my face. Pei Qin offered no rebuttal, only furrowing his brows slightly to show his dissatisfaction. "Ayun, I don't have time to play games with you right now, be obedient." After saying that, Pei Qin strode toward the door with long steps. I coldly turned my face toward him. "Pei Qin, I don't care what urgent matters you have. But if you don't explain yourself clearly today, you won't be able to walk through this door." The servants I brought from my family all rushed forward to block Pei Qin's path. Since he values his little childhood friend so much, I'll help him out and let everyone know about their deep friendship. The guests who came to congratulate them were also very eager to see this spectacle, eagerly waiting for Pei Qin to speak. Anger appeared in Pei Qin's eyebrows and he said in an unpleasant tone, "Xieyun, do you really have to make a scene with me right now? I don't have time to play around with you right now. We'll discuss everything when I get back." Under everyone's watchful eyes, Pei Qin forced his way out of the house. I gave a signal and arranged for someone to follow him. Pei Qin left, but I still had to finish the remaining battle. There were many guests present, and Prince Pei's son was unkind, although Prince Pei was angry. He had no choice but to apologize and appease the crowd. Prince Pei's wife wanted to quickly end this farce and directly instructed the servants, "Someone, quickly help the young lady to her bridal chamber to rest." I immediately interrupted Prince Pei's wife, my eyes reddening. "Prince Pei, Lady Pei, you have both seen Prince Pei Qian's attitude just now. I was merely asking for the reason, and he immediately called me outrageous. I was pampered and spoiled my whole life in the Xie family. I'm not obligated to marry him." I bowed slightly toward the still gathering crowd. "Please, esteemed guests, bear witness as I go together with you to see what urgent matter the young master of the Pei family has, who doesn't enjoy a good spectacle, especially when it involves a disloyal scoundrel." My words immediately drew many responses. With red eyes, I walked ahead with feigned strength, leading the large crowd forward, following the servant's guidance. We headed straight toward the Liu family. We arrived at just the right time, and the decree of punishment had already reached the Liu family, and Pei Qin was still grabbing Liu Susu's hand at the Liu family gate, saying to the leader, "Susu is my concubine. She is no longer a Liu family woman." After Pei Qin finished speaking, he turned his head and saw me rushing over. He opened his mouth, as if feeling guilty or perhaps wanting to explain. I forced myself to squeeze back my tears. Speaking to Pei Qin before he could open his mouth, "Pei Qin, so you didn't want to marry me because you were going out to take a concubine?" Then I closed my eyes with a sorrowful expression, letting tears fall freely, my voice filled with grief. "Fine, if that's the case, then I'll give you both your freedom. Break the engagement. From this day forward, the Pei and Xie families shall have no further connection whatsoever." Having said that, I turned decisively and left without giving Pei Qin any chance to plead or defend himself. Pei Qin had cherished Liusu for his entire life, a woman whose worth was so minimal that even the lives of my entire family couldn't compare to her, and she was only worth the status of a concubine. How ironic. The guests who came with me never expected to witness such a grand spectacle. Some were having their homes searched, some were taking in concubines on the spot, and others were crying while calling off engagements. The excitement of this evening is just the beginning. The real show is yet to come. Without any surprises, the news that Pei Qin abandoned me, the daughter of a prime minister, for the daughter of a disgraced minister, quickly spread throughout the entire capital. Some people pitied me for losing my reputation, others cursed Pei Qin as a faithless scoundrel. The common people whispered and discussed. But the real battlefield was on the imperial court. When the Liu family was punished, Pei Qin insisted on taking a Liu family woman as his concubine. which was equivalent to defying the emperor, a capital offense. The memorial submitted by the ministers impeaching Pei Qin and his father rained down like snowflakes before the throne. The once promising third-place scholar lost the emperor's favor, was removed from the Hanlin Academy, and was demoted to an 8th-rank minor official. Even Pei Qin's father was implicated and reprimanded for failing to discipline his son properly, and was fined his salary. The price the Pei family paid for a guilty concubine became a topic of great interest among the people, and even became an example for officials and nobles to educate their disobedient sons, thus overshadowing my own story of being abandoned from marriage. It was worth it that I timed it perfectly to have Pei Qin burst out of the house, and then happened to appear with people when Pei Qin took his concubine, allowing guests to witness his deep affection for his wife and concubine, Liu Susu. That day, I was receiving guests in the mansion. The maid attending me, Chunhua, rushed in panic. "Miss, it's terrible. Pei Qin, that bastard, has brought his wedding gifts and come to the door, saying he wants to ask for Miss's hand in marriage again." Chunhua's face wrinkled with anger. "Miss, he even brought that concubine with him. How could he be so disrespectful to our Chancellor's mansion and to you, Miss?" They deliberately made a big fuss to draw many civilians to come and watch the spectacle. "Miss, do you want to meet him?" Before I could speak, a light chuckle came from beside me. "Thank you, Miss. It seems your former fiancé hasn't learned his lesson yet. Shall I personally intervene to escort these people away? My guest is none other than the current crown prince. In his previous life, he was accidentally injured and disabled, eventually going mad with despair. His rebellion failed, and he was executed for his crimes. Because the crown prince died early, it was this allowed Pei Qin to earn the merit of assisting the second prince to the throne. If Pei Qin did not have backing behind him, even if he wanted revenge, he wouldn't dare harm my father. In this life, I will completely sever Pei Qin's hopes from the root. I declined the prince's kind offer, Your Highness. Such a small matter is something I can handle on my own. As for the rest, Your Highness, please proceed with the plan we discussed. I went to the main gate with Chunhua, where the crowd was so thick that it was hard to move. The wedding gifts that Pei Qin had brought were spread out across a long stretch of the street. Pei Qin was dressed in red, standing on horseback, making him especially conspicuous. Seeing my appearance, he greeted me with a smile in his eyes. Ayun. Eyes full of spring waves, eyebrows and eyes like a painting, plus that call filled with joy, made me feel dazed for a moment. It was as if I had returned to my past life, when I hadn't yet seen his true face clearly and was still completely fond of him. But this daze only lasted for a brief moment. Pei Qin gracefully dismounted, walked over to me, and said, Ayun, you've been misbehaving. I told you to wait until I finished my official business before we hold the wedding ceremony. But you caused such a big fuss. But I know you're upset, so I won't hold the past against you. Today I'm coming to your door once more to ask for your hand in marriage. This will surely silence the rumors about your broken engagement. Aren't you happy about that? Ayun, Fui, what kind of person do you think you are to dare call my young lady's name directly? As soon as Pei Qin finished speaking, Chunhua angrily scolded him. Listening to Pei Qin's shameless words, I sneered inwardly. It seems that after being a favorite of the emperor for so long, he still hasn't realized his own situation. I said with mocking tone, compete, you're not even worthy of it, Pei Qin. It was I who gave the nod, allowing you to have this marriage contract with me. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have to step onto the threshold of my mansion. Someone, throw this dog and cat out of here. If they dare to resist, break their legs. The servant guarding the mansion grabbed a wooden stick as thick as his wrist and swung it at Pei Qin. Unable to resist, Pei Qin could only retreat step by step. Along with him, Liu Susu knelt at the steps on Pei Qin's command, crying and bowing to me. Please don't take your anger out on my husband. It's all my fault, I'm the one who let you down. Sister, my husband truly likes you. Even though you caused him to be expelled from the Hanlin Academy, he had no intention of blaming you at all. And he went to great lengths to prepare a wedding gift and came to propose marriage again. If my elder sister truly cannot tolerate me, as long as my elder sister agrees to renew our vows with my husband, Susu will voluntarily go to a nunnery to worship Buddha, and will never return to the Pei family estate for the rest of her life. Liu Susu cried with tears like raindrops on pear blossoms. Her words were most pitiful to hear. Chunhua was so angry her nose was crooked. She crossed her waist and ranted in fury. What a shameless pair of adulterous lovers. What's done is done. But you still want to drag my young lady into this. Such a filthy place as your Pei family estate. Besides that dirty slut you are, who would want to marry her? Beat them out, all of you. The servants of the Xiong Fu rushed to attack Liu Susu upon receiving the order, but Pei Qin instinctively held Liu Susu in his arms, taking the blow meant for her. I met Pei Qin's furious gaze, and heard him say, Xieyun, don't forget, our engagement has not been cancelled yet. I sneered lightly. So what? My mother had arranged several times to send people to cancel the engagement and retrieve the betrothal document, but all were rejected by the Pei family with various excuses. I know all of this is under Pei Qin's instructions. Pei Qin knows too well how he rose to the pinnacle of power in his previous life. Without the support of the Xie family and without my scheming behind the scenes, he would still be far from becoming a third-rank official. Pei Qin also knows that I admire him, so he thinks that if he causes a little trouble and then apologizes to me, I will once again obediently fall under his control. So even though the Pei family bears many curses and accusations, even though Pei's father struggles greatly in the imperial court, the Pei family still refuses to let go of the marriage arrangement between us. The marriage proposal couldn't be called off, and now Pei Qin has come to cause a scene today. Mother is furious and has decided to go to the palace to seek the Empress's guidance, asking her to find me a suitable match and thus completely end my engagement with the Pei family. To my surprise, the concubine first sent me an invitation, inviting me to admire the flowers. The concubine is the birth mother of the second prince. Pei Qin's actions are truly swift. The sons and daughters of officials ranked 5th grade or above in the capital were all invited. Perhaps because of the scene that Pei Qin had caused at the gates of the Chancellor's residence, no one dared to gossip about me face to face. The flower viewing banquet was ostensibly for viewing flowers, but in reality, the young men and women gathered there were either to make a name for themselves or to scout potential matches. The women competed in beauty and charm, while the men displayed their literary talents, making for a very lively occasion. I had no intention of getting involved in these matters, yet someone simply wouldn't let me off the hook. The concubine immediately summoned me to her side the moment she arrived. She took my hand, speaking very intimately. I heard that the Chancellor's wife has been quite distressed about your marriage lately. How about I act as a matchmaker for you? Before I could refuse, the concubine waved her hand and summoned someone. It was none other than Pei Qin. After Pei Qin exchanged greetings with the concubine, he smiled slightly at me. Yun. All eyes from every direction converged on me. The concubine said, Xieyun, you are the legitimate daughter of the Xie family. I know that you had a small disagreement with Prince Pei these past few days, but how can any man not have 3 or 4 concubines? I believe you are a woman with a broad mind and gentle generosity, a mere concubine. You should treat her like a cat or dog, so why get angry with your future husband over such a matter? That is putting the cart before the horse. Prince Pei is young yet a top scholar, with talent and good looks. He truly admires you. He knelt for half a day to ask me to act as matchmaker, and I was deeply moved by his dedication, which is why I agreed to this matter. Missing such a good match, you will surely regret it in the future. Will you, for my sake today, reconcile with Prince Pei?" The concubine finished speaking, and Pei Qin immediately stepped forward, bowed deeply to me, and presented a vibrant, dewdrop-laden crabapple blossom. "Ah Yun, I was wrong about what happened before. I accept any punishment you give me, but I only ask for another chance. My feelings for Ah Yun are as clear as the sun and moon, as witnessed by heaven and earth. If any word of this statement is false, may I be struck by lightning and meet a miserable death." Pei Qin was a master of performance. The way he looked at me now was filled with deep emotion, and his face showed nothing but careful anticipation, as if he had placed himself at the lowest level of dust, as if a single casual word from me could bring him down. If it weren't for my reincarnation, I might have believed in his sincerity, but he's good at putting on a show, and so am I. I looked at Pei Qin, my eyes reddening, questioning him with a crying tone. "Pei Qin, your so-called sincerity is to repeatedly embarrass me in front of others, isn't it?" I glanced around, letting Pei Qin see all those faces around us that were eager to watch the show. With sincerity like this, how could I dare to accept it? Pei Qin wanted a large crowd. He wanted to apologize to me in public, show his deep feelings, and use the power of public opinion to force me to agree to marry him. This also gave me room to strike back. I bowed to the concubine. "Concubine, please forgive me. I understand your kindness, Lady Xie. The matter between me and Pei Qin has nothing to do with that concubine. I don't care about her. It's just that Pei Qin's repeated disregard for my dignity is something I simply cannot bear. I will take my leave first." As I was leaving, Pei Qin grabbed my wrist. His expression was sorrowful. "Ah Yun, what must I do to gain your forgiveness?" I pointed casually at the nearby sink and said, "Jump in." Pei Qin didn't wait for me to finish speaking before leaping into the water. He couldn't swim and choked on several mouthfuls of water. Even so, he didn't forget his purpose. "Ah Yun, I jumped, looking at Pei Qin's disheveled appearance. I felt slightly better in my heart and finished what I hadn't said. "If you drown, I'll forgive you." Pei Qin naturally didn't want to drown himself. Only because the person who saved him wasn't timely enough. After returning home, he fell seriously ill. What I made him jump into the pond at the flower viewing banquet became idle chatter for others during their tea breaks, and he also achieved his wish, treading on me to win back a bit of reputation for deep feelings, unlike before when everyone was shouting to attack him. Because of this deep affection, she gained the favor of the second prince and became a true member of the second prince's faction, earning his trust and use. A woman who was dumped from her engagement was ruined and disgraced, as if she deserved to die, while a man who betrayed his vows first took a concubine and then married a wife. And after saying a few fake words of devotion and love in public, everyone praised him. This world is truly unjust. Also because the Pei family became part of the second prince's faction. The Empress Dowager issued an edict to release me from my engagement to Pei Qin. Pei Qin was busy handling matters for the second prince and had no time to bother with me. It was actually his concubine who came frequently instead. At first, she would come to the Pei residence gate to pour out her heart to me, crying about Pei Qin's hardships. As Pei Qin successfully completed several tasks for the second prince has recently been greatly favored. And Pei Qin's status rose accordingly. Liu Susu's crying out for forgiveness had now become a display of pride, showing off what red hair ornaments Pei Qin bought her today, what fragrance powder tomorrow, and what precious and rare fabric the day after. Though she was merely a concubine, her life was more comfortable than that of many main wives in the capital. Liu Susu had become the object of envy for many people. Chunhua was extremely anxious for me, constantly scolding Liu Susu as a fox spirit. I smiled to comfort her. "All right, let's not dwell on her. The real show is yet to come." A few days before the Mid-Autumn Festival, Princess Ningen invited me to go to Tianhua Temple outside the city for blessings. We were accompanied by several noble young ladies from the capital, including Qin Shuiyao, the daughter of the Grand General, and Du Qi, the daughter of the Minister of Works. Tianhua Temple was packed with pilgrims. Shoulder to shoulder with people everywhere, after burning incense inside the hall, I separated from Qin Shuiyao, Du Qi, and the others. We simply found a quiet spot with fewer people to sit and have some snacks, waiting for the pilgrims to disperse before reuniting with the others. I had only eaten a few bites when I started feeling dizzy. I caught a glimpse of several black-clad men with knives rushing past from behind, and the next moment I lost consciousness. When I came to my senses again, I was in a dilapidated house, and the three of us were tightly bound to a pillar. Several big, bearded men stood in the room, all thick-set and imposing. The men held knives and grinned lecherously. "Today's our lucky day. We've captured a few young ladies from wealthy families. Look at their delicate skin and tender flesh. This should be quite enjoyable." One of them threw his knife aside and began untying his belt. "Miss, don't worry, we're just going to play a bit. Once we're satisfied, we'll call your families to bring silver for your ransom. We won't kill you. Are you so weak that I'll make you even softer later?" A group of men laughed lewdly as they rushed toward us eagerly. Du Qi, who had just opened her eyes, screamed in fear and cried out for help. She was then slapped hard across the face. "Little whore, what are you screaming for? Even if you shout until your throat bursts, no one will come." Someone came to grab my hand. Others tried to tear at Qin Shuiao's clothes, but before they could get close, Qin Shuiyao kicked them away. The daughter of a grand general, if she hadn't been deliberately drugged with a nerve-paralyzing agent by someone with ill intentions, how could she be so easily manipulated? She certainly wouldn't wait around for some hero to save the day. In the middle of Qin Shuiao's fight with the bandits inside the room, someone burst through the door. "Capture her." The man who arrived was the Crown Prince. I looked toward Du Qi, seeing shock in her eyes. The bandits had left only one survivor alive, killing everyone else. When the fight ended, a group of people appeared at the door. It was the second prince and Pei Qin, in her previous life, the daughter of the Grand General. Qin Shuiyao and Du Chun, along with several noble ladies, were accidentally kidnapped by bandits while offering incense at Tianhua Temple. It was the second prince who rescued them with his men. To repay the favor of being saved, Qin Shuiyao became the second prince's principal consort, and Du Chun became the second prince's secondary consort. With these two powerful supporters behind him, the second prince's influence quietly surpassed that of the crown prince. In fact, Qin Shuiyao had long harbored feelings for the crown prince, waiting only for the imperial edict to bestow the marriage. The second prince used Qin Shuiao's pristine reputation as leverage, and also employed Qin Shuiyao to balance the Qin family's influence, which forced the Qin family to support him. I glanced at Qin Shuiyao, who was currently being cared for by the crown prince, to see if she was all right. In this life, I naturally wanted to help them fulfill their love. The plan had changed, and the second prince's expression was very grim, but he still went to make a show before Du Qi. Pei Qin also walked toward me, his words filled with concern. "Ayun, are you all right? As soon as I heard you were in trouble, I rushed right over. You scared me to death," Pei Qin said, wanting to hug me, but I kicked him away. I cut the rope myself and said to Pei Qin, "Pei Qin, you disgust me. I didn't know who had devised this hero-saving beauty plan in my previous life, but in this life, it must be none other than Pei Qin. In my previous life, I had already married Pei Qin and was busy managing his household affairs and preparing the festival gifts for Mid-Autumn Festival to give to various families. I simply had no time to offer incense and pray for blessings. I only learned about Qin Shuiyao and the second prince from Qin Shuiyao herself after the fact. At that time, Pei Qin was not acquainted with the second prince. and the underlying grudges were something I had informed him of. Here's the translation. It's become his current means of flattering the second emperor. Pei Qin looked at the disgust in my eyes and acted very hurt, but when he saw the knife in my hand, his expression changed to confusion. Yun, why do you have a knife in your hand? I played with the knife and looked up challengingly. Guess. Pei Qin looked confused and suspicious, with a strange expression. He didn't speak to me again on the way back. It wasn't until I got out of the car that he stopped me. His eyes red as he demanded, Yun, did you come back too? I kicked him again. Get lost. If you're sick, go see a doctor. Stop acting crazy in front of me. I naturally wouldn't admit it, it wasn't the right time yet. When I entered the house, I heard Pei Qin calling behind me, Yun, you are mine. We were husband and wife in our past and present lives. No one can tear us apart. I shook my head. He really is sick. Pei Qin came up with a great idea for the second prince. Successfully bringing a couple together, not long after returning from Tianhua Temple, the emperor promptly arranged a marriage between the crown prince and Qin Shuiyao. As for the second prince, Du Qi had been promoted from secondary concubine to prince consort. The Du family was overjoyed, but the second prince's face was as dark as night. Perhaps dissatisfied with the marriage arrangement, the second prince suffered a series of mishaps in the following days, earning him several scoldings from the emperor. The emperor's attitude made the second prince quite anxious and irritable, a state of restlessness that only improved on the day of the autumn hunt. By the emperor's grace, officials of the third rank and above may bring their families to accompany them to the hunting lodge for the autumn hunt. My mother and I traveled with the other women of the household. On the way, I also saw Liu Susu, who was riding in the same carriage as Du Qi. It seems that Pei Qin indeed doted on her. Such a lowly concubine could accompany them to this occasion. I didn't take Liu Susu seriously, but I never expected that after the palace, Liu Susu would come looking for me on her own. The first thing she said to me was, Miss Xie, you know full well that young Master Qin loves you deeply. He has kept the position of principal wife vacant for you all this time, and his pursuit of the second prince has been for your future. Why do you persist in opposing him at every turn? Miss Xie, give up. You should know when you're fortunate. This made me burst into laughter. For my future, I am the daughter of a chancellor. Does he, a mere 8th rank official, deserve to secure my future for me? As for the position of principal wife, that's even laughable. Apart from you wanting to be the principal wife of your beloved younger brother, ask all the noble ladies in the capital who among them would look twice at someone like him, a disloyal wastrel. Miss Liu, I'm not targeting you, and you should stop showing off in front of me. I wanted to turn and leave, but Liu Susu grabbed my sleeve, and she knelt down directly in front of me. Liu Susu sobbed to me, Sister, I know it's all because of me. I'm the one who ruined the relationship between you and Brother Qin. Promise to reconcile with Brother Qin, and I'll die immediately. 1. Liu Susu was quite resolute. After saying that, she stood up to go crash into a tree. She didn't hit the tree, but crashed into Pei Qin's chest instead. Liu Susu cried and complained for a while longer. Brother Qin, just let me die. If I die, you can reconcile with your sister and won't have to suffer like this anymore. Pei Qin held Liu Susu in his arms and cooed to her for a while before finally managing to make Liu Susu stop crying and smile. Planting a kiss on him before the whole thing ended, Chunhua covered her eyes with one hand while secretly peeking at me from beside me, muttering softly, Miss, will watching this give you a sty? I ignored the challenge in Liu Susu's eyes and didn't want to know what madness had driven these two to put on such a scene. Pulling Chunhua away with me, Yes, don't look at dirty things. Pei Qin, who had let go of Liu Susu, blocked my path. Yun, I've said before, you'll be mine. Wait a little longer, soon I'll be able to come and marry you. His eyes gleamed with confidence. Clearly convinced that this autumn hunt would bring great rewards, I gave a faint smile. Oh, then I'll be waiting. On the day the autumn hunt officially began, the Crown Prince encountered a fierce tiger in the mountains and nearly lost his life. The fierce tiger was lured by someone, focusing its attacks solely on the Crown Prince. The Emperor was furious and ordered a full investigation. Upon investigation, the truth led to the second prince. The second prince had someone release the fierce tiger with the intention of killing the Crown Prince. There are only 3 adult princes of the current emperor, among whom the third prince is weak and sickly, and was born with 6 fingers, making him ineligible for the throne from birth. The other princes are not yet grown, and the second prince regards only the Crown Prince as his sole rival, with the Crown Prince dead or maimed. The throne will be his. The autumn hunt of the previous life occurred 5 years later than now, and the emperor was older. The remaining sons were either died in infancy or became fools due to illness. The Crown Prince was bitten by a fierce tiger, losing a leg and becoming disabled. The emperor actually knew who the culprit was, but still lightly brushed the matter aside, because he only had the second prince left, who was intact and could inherit his imperial throne in this life. The emperor was in good health, the Crown Prince only suffered minor injuries, and the other princes were all fine. Therefore, the second prince, who was heartless and ruthless enough to attempt fratricide, was severely reprimanded and confined to his residence, forbidden to leave without imperial decree. The concubine also suffered by association and was demoted to the rank of lady. The second prince lost his influence, and the forces that had been attached to him also suffered a major blow. Being replaced by people arranged by the Crown Prince, Pei Qin approached me again. This time he came with a definite answer. Ayun, you really are reborn, just like me. Pei Qin's eyes were filled with complex emotions, carrying both grief and a hint of nostalgia. Ayun, you hate me, don't you? I'm sorry. The anger I had suppressed since my rebirth could no longer be contained. I raised my hand and slapped Qing Chen hard across the face. Do you think one sorry apology can erase everything that's happened? The excruciating pain of being consumed by flames, of being scorched by intense fire, I will never forget that pain. I stepped closer to Qing Chen. Qing Chen, you ruined my father and brothers, slandered my younger brother for treason, and caused the execution of my entire family. Don't you think I should hate you? Pei Qin raised his hand and slapped himself. Ayun, it's my fault. I deserve to die. I'll just kill you, I said without hesitation. Pei Qin was stunned for a moment, trying to explain. Ayun, I have my reasons. Please let me explain. I didn't want to hear it. I cut him off directly. Pei Qin, our relationship has become a matter of life and death. You now have only one path left. The road where you forced the Crown Prince to death in your previous life. In my last life, the Crown Prince's beloved was taken away. He lost a leg and was denied the throne. His father, whom he had always admired and revered, refused to punish the perpetrators for
without a husband. Hey Yun, please put on the wedding dress. Okay, I know you love me the most, and the person I love most is you. Let's get married now, right now. Pei Qin was like a madman, his only obsession being to force me to put on the wedding dress and marry him in a ceremony. When I refused, he even tried to use force. But before he could touch me, someone kicked him hard from behind into the wall. Then he crashed to the ground heavily. The maid who was imprisoned with me, Qin Shueyao, stood on Pei Qin's chest, then turned to ask me, Ayun, how should we deal with this dog? I looked at Pei Qin lying on the ground, spewing blood, and calmly said 2 words, burn him to death. Qin Shueyao found a rope to bind Pei Qin and dragged him out. The reinforcements had already arrived. The people from the Pei family had been eliminated, and the current guards were all loyal soldiers of the Qin family. I had someone drag Pei Qin to the room where he burned me to death in my previous life. At the brink of life and death, Pei Qin was no longer mad, just lying on the ground crying. Ayun, we're both reborn. You're just a concubine in the inner chambers. I was promoted to the 3rd rank in my previous life and deeply trusted by the emperor. How could I lose to you? How could I lose? Pei Qin couldn't understand. I knelt down in front of Pei Qin with the newly lit candle and told him the answer. Because you were too greedy, you wanted power, you wanted fame, and you wanted a person. But I'm different. I only wanted you to die. Pei Qin clutched his head in pain. I see. He then asked me, Yun, if when we got married, I hadn't left you behind to go after Su Su, would you? No, I answered decisively. I will never forgive you, never. I lit the bed curtains with the candle, and the flames spread like dragons, spreading rapidly. I threw the candle and turned to leave. Pei Qin screamed my name inside the room, begging me to spare his life, begging me that he had learned his lesson. Soon after, wailing sobs echoed from within the house, the sound piercing and identical to my previous life. The final words were Pei Qin saying, Yun, I know how much you're in pain. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Only ordering people to put out the fire once the building was mostly burned. It was enough to burn to death the damned person. We couldn't let the fire spread to other houses. The second prince's rebellion failed, and he committed suicide on the spot. The second prince's followers were also eliminated, including the Pei family, Du family, and even Liu Susu, this concubine, was also implicated. What a pity. Pei Qin, reborn, still couldn't protect his little childhood friend, useless man. After this incident, the emperor fell gravely ill and remained in poor health thereafter, so he issued an edict for the crown prince to rule in his stead. A year later, the emperor abdicated and the new emperor ascended the throne. After Emperor Xiao Hongzhou ascended the throne, he summoned me into the palace and asked what reward I desired. Your Majesty, my daughter does indeed have a request. This was not a good proposal. The newly crowned emperor was not yet so completely devoid of expression. Xiao Hongzhou said, You have great merits, and I will tell you the truth. The Xie family's power has become too great. I was born into a noble family, yet I do not wish to share the world with the nobles. Do you understand? I nodded. Your Majesty, I understand. I will ask my father to resign his post and we will return to our hometown in old age. Only a young emperor would say such words. And I could only obtain this death sentence reprieve from the hands of a young emperor. Xiao Hongzhou still agreed, and even showed exceptional mercy by allowing my elder brother and younger brother to remain in the capital. My elder brother did not have to resign his post, and my younger brother could continue his studies at the National University and take the imperial examinations in the future. It was worth the effort after all. Before the Xie family returned to their hometown, Qin Shuiyao came to see me off. You have achieved such great success, but in the end, you must return home with your entire family. Yun, are you willing to accept this? In the sealed room, Qin Shuiyao heard many of my past life stories with Pei Qin, but she never asked a single question. She is a trustworthy person, so I told her the truth. I'm just biding my time for now. I'm someone who will ultimately accomplish great things. She laughed and said, Then I'll be waiting. In my first year back in my hometown, I opened a private school for girls, naming it the Xie Family Girls' School. 3 years later, the Xie Family Girls' School gained fame all the way to the capital. I returned to the capital and established a girls' school at the foot of heaven, inviting the Empress to serve as principal. 3 years later, the Empress issued an edict stating that women could also enter government service. That year, during the imperial examination results announcement, students from the girls' school were listed among the successful candidates. This world is unjust to women, so women shall fight for their rights. As for matters of love and romance, it is fine if they exist, and it is fine if they do not exist.